The 2019 season of the Australian Ultimate League would not be possible without the support of our league partners. Today's match is brought to you by the following team sponsors.
Okay, coming from coaching Sydney last year, what have you seen differently this year in the AUL?
It sort of feels like everyone knows the format a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable with the space on the field. So last year it felt like a lot of athletes that are really, really super fit were exhausted after the points. So I think people have adapted a little bit more, and I think the format this year has made it quite a different game and a lot more exciting, to be honest.
What is the key thing you're going to focus on in this next game?
This next game's a tricky one for me because it's personal. I'm coaching against one of my best friends and also foes in Anna Ragaki. And it's an interesting combo because her husband, Tom Ragaki, is on the team. So it's gotten personal and I've got to try and keep my emotions out of it. That's my focus for the game.
All right. Well, good luck in this next game. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's something you really value about Adelaide that you haven't seen before on other teams?
I think Adelaide has this really sort of amazing ability to come together and be, let's get it. Let's have it. They have a really nice sense of team and a really nice sense of community that I've really valued. Yeah, it's been actually really pleasant.
What are you looking to see from Adelaide coming out against Sydney?
I think we will need to really focus on taking care. Sydney have such strength coming under, they've got strength going deep. So they really have all of the options at their disposal. So we will just need to play smart help defence, I think, some bracketing, because I think it's not what will we give them, it's what can we take away from them.
Do you have any new defensive strategies from switching from last year to this year, especially against Sydney?
Probably a bit more of the bracketing and a bit more help defence, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, great. Good luck in your next game.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Welcome to this matchup of the AUL. It's the Adelaide Dragons versus the Sydney Suns. We're bringing this to you from the Ron Barassi Senior Oval in the Docklands, originally the home of the Bunurong people and the Wurundjeri people. I'm Claire Hussey and I'm joined with Joy Lee. We're going to bring you this game, a game we hope to be full of adventure, excitement and passion.
Yes, a scintillating matchup here, and I think, some very tall, exciting, fast athletes, some skillful displays of throwing and strategy out there, and I think this matchup is going to be very rich indeed. I think, what do you think of these two teams generally, Huss? Are there any matchups, or what kind of spectacles are you hoping to see?
There's going to be some fantastic matchups. There is a lot of experience on both teams and also some youth. I'm looking forward to seeing the 19-year-old Kaya Weir maybe matching up with Sally Yu. Kaya Weir takes some fantastic high grabs, and I think that Sally Yu can push her and maybe threaten some of those quick goals that Sydney Suns like to get.
Yep, and first point of the first set here. We've got Della with the pull as it lofts up. There's no breeze to speak of at the moment as Mark Evans receives the disc to Reeve. Now Sydney have just come out with a pretty standard vertical stack and they've gone long immediately with Sarah Perkins. Ladamatos looks it off and straight through to Evans. We're going to see a lot of Evans to Ladamatos, I imagine, with their skill and experience around the disc. Holly Reeve getting involved and punts it straight away. Evans has taken the opportunity from the handler space to headlong. Has he kept it in? And good move there from Evans. It's a goal. First goal to Sydney in this first set, and that's a quick point, as Hussey mentioned previously. Sydney, I think they will look to score quickly. With 3 20-minute sets, time is of the essence, and the quicker you can score, the quicker you can get up to that advantage, the better for your team.
Yeah, you want to race ahead to the end of that set as soon as you can. Avoid the sudden death end to the set. Beautifully weighted throw from Holly Reeve into that corner for Mark to run onto, Mark Evans. Here we see a replay. Out into acres of space, but with just enough control on it to sit up and for Evans to tow it in.
Yeah, lovely touch there. Not a huge amount of separation, Evans, from his defender, but throw was good enough as Regaki lofts a pull.
Looks like it might just drift out. No, it's staying in. Good pull. And the Suns have come down in match defense. Got Sprague for the Dragons. Looking for an option. Goes for Kelly up the line, who lofts one up. Same spot as before for the Suns. Brilliantly read, brilliantly taken down by Sean Davis. Usually see him behind the disc. He's made a great deep cut there.
Yeah, picture perfect for the Dragons there. It was similar plays in the first two points, as if to say, hey, Suns, whatever you can do, we can also do. Sean Davis, not the tallest player on the Dragons squad at 174 centimetres, but showed his quality as a target. Michael Kelly there. A couple of cuts from the Dragons players into the same spot, but they're able to work it out. And despite Wee's attentions on Davis, goal to the Dragons.
Kelly got a very relaxed throwing style, just casually rotating his body round, releasing nice and low, but with a little bit of front edge to make it sit up. There's a bit of wind coming over from the right-hand side of the field as we look at it to the left, but nothing too spectacular.
6-on-6 ultimate, of course. And as Evans gets going to Reeve, Ladamatos making sure of it. Looks at Sarah Perkins running long, decides to swing calmly. Evans and Ladamatos seem to really enjoy having control of the tempo of the Suns' offense. They've got options everywhere. Reeve constantly presenting. Such a threat deep, but also hits the underspots with consistency. And Evans again. Evans from the handler position, busts long. Ladamatos respects that. That's a good throw. And another goal to the Suns. I wonder if we're going to see a lot of that. It's very, very hard to shut that down. Handlers with speed such as Evans has, really cutting long. You don't, it's hard to, you want to deny Evans the disc in the handler spot, but when he goes long, you know, it's a great option, isn't it?
Yeah, and he was marked by Lachlan McDonald on both of those goals that he caught. Lachlan McDonald, very good defender, speedy himself, but you know, he's got to choose something. He's got to choose something to take out. He's marking him under a little, and yeah, needs to present a little bit more to be able to take that option away from Evans.
Just having a quick look at both the lines here for the teams. 6-on-6, we've got 3 women and 3 men on for both teams as Regaki releases the pull. I always find it really interesting in mixed ultimate how teams mix up their lines. Here we've got we had 2 female handlers in Di Warman and Kim Sprague starting off for the Dragons. Warman with the disc now, it's very deep. Dragons have organised themselves into a vertical stack. And it's punted long, Davis again. Consistency in the target, and he has just outrun his defenders. He was marked by two people in the end there, Rosie Dawson and Mark Wee, but quick and a perfect throw. So with the light breeze you've mentioned, this long game is paying dividends for both teams. We haven't even seen a turnover yet. It's quality stuff.
That's right. Nice full length put there. End zone to end zone. The throw coming from Aaron Neal. Another very competent thrower. Just steps out. Doesn't need to step out too wide to get around that mark. Pops it up. And Sean Davis has no problem reading that.
Yeah. We've seen we haven't seen any zone defenses so far. It's still early days in this set and match. We're in the first set and just over around 6.5 minutes have gone of the 20 minutes. It's a faster pace of game, of course, when you play match D. I wonder if they will pull out some zones later in the set if a team gets out to a lead.
Ash Evans to Reeve in the centre. She's got Perkins going deep, doesn't take it, marked by you. Vlad Matos now. Alexander headed deep. Again looked off. Ash Evans. Now goes to Evans. Mark Evans in this case, and another easy goal for Mark Evans,
wow.
racking up those points.
That's 3 goals for Evans, I think. And the score being 3-2 to the Suns. He scored every single one of the Suns' goals so far, and I wonder if the Dragons will adapt their marking of him just to try and make that a bit trickier.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something to control him if they want to get a break in this set.
Matters so calm on the disc. Evans, that point, getting really involved, touching it a couple of times. And he is the man who punted that one to the end zone. Evans just walking onto it almost.
We've got 2 of the oldest players in the AUL representing in this game, with Tom Regacki at 42 years old on the Sydney Suns and Di Warman exactly the same age on the Adelaide Dragons. Both been playing for at least half of their life. Kelly reaching to just keep that in. Great grab. Working hard. Davis now behind the disc to Warman.
To Neal. Dragons here forced to throw a few more passes than in previous points, but looking calm and controlled. To Kelly. Over to Davis. They're really passing across the field using the space. As Mandy Fung heads deep, but wasn't hit. And just overthrown. Warman was open, but it was close to the sideline. Defensive pressure by Weir as Regacki opts for the quick one. Spies Rosie Dawson going deep and looks for that straight away. Andrews comes in. Marked by Neal. And to Dawson. Now, I'm wondering if Dawson, amazing target, speedy, reads the disc so well. Also, perhaps Regacki attracted by the height mismatch. Mandy Fung, a little shorter than Dawson's. Great in the air as well, but in the end, it was Andrews who came and mopped up that huck anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't the most perfect throw for Dawson to read. Would have sailed over her head. A team that has lots of players backing each other up is often the team that succeeds in these close matchups.
The score now is 4-2, and that's a break to the Suns, and that's in this set rather, with so few turnovers. That's quite big.
Coming up to the halfway point time-wise in this set. There's no points cap in these sets, just plays to time cap of 20 minutes. Evans with a whipping rolling pull, curling pull, does just roll out the back of the end zone. And the Dragons have got a very strong handler set of Neal, Spragg and Warman, with their horizontal 3-person stack ready and waiting. Kelly, Fung and Davis.
Yeah, there's loads of deep space here for the Dragons. Knows Latimat was marking Davis deep. Davis has already scored a goal for the Dragons as Di Warman Reaches out that left hand, clutches the disc. Fung cutting strongly. Perkins with a very active mark. No problem for Fung. And Warman punts it long. Evans had eyes on that early. Good body position, able to just run that down.
Yeah, that flick needed to be a bit deeper for it to be in Kelly's advantage. Now the Suns on the counter-attack. Ash Evans takes his chance with a huck. That far corner again, and who's underneath it? Of course, it's the other Evans, the Mark Evans, getting one more goal for the Sydney Suns, taking them 5-2 up.
Evans to Evans. He just won't be denied at the moment. Evans set up that cut quite early and was obviously keen for the disc. Ash Evans had loads of time to line that up, and it was a great throw, put it out in front. And Mark Evans showing his speed, and what are they going to do to try and at least make that a little bit harder?
They're going to have to chuck in a deep poach or try with a zone or just mark him deep. One of those three options should at least control him a little bit.
Yep. Michael Kelly there, also a quick man. It was close, but the throw too good.
Yeah, a combination of great timing of the cuts by Evans and really solid throws have really put the Sydney Suns out in front.
It's going to be Davis receiving the pull for the Dragons this time. Loads of time under the disc. We've seen the defenders run down. Sprague, oh, and just that disc has just bounced out of the hand of Dunmore. She was wide open, but perhaps taking it a little bit casually.
Yeah, it went one-handed, interestingly. Regaki with the big hammer over the top to Dawson. Easy,
Yes.
easy goal. Regaki will take that crossfield hammer every time if he can.
Great throw there. Pretty much unmarkable. You saw the by the time Dawson caught that disc, defender was nowhere near. Regaki, of course, really adept at seeing those options and just executing.
Yeah, and with his height, there's not really anyone that can threaten, that can put pressure on that hammer. He can throw over the top of pretty much everybody.
I think what's kind of, as we see a really lovely replay of that. Dawson, eyes on the disc right to the end. Adelaide are just giving the Suns some chances. There was a drop there. We've seen another overthrow, and the Suns are just very clinical in punishing them for that.
Robertson and Warman at the back. Get the disc centered and moving nice and quickly. McDonald to Lee. Lee goes for the flick with too much angle on it. Doesn't sit up. Had it. It's another one of those examples you were just talking about. That was an easy goal opportunity. They'd set themselves up really well, but the execution wasn't there.
Yeah. Pressure compounds pressure. The score's at 6-2 now, so no doubt Adelaide are trying to go for a couple of quick scores. But when it plays into the hands of the opposition here, the hurt's just going to compound as Regaki gets in power position. Doesn't waste it, sends it to Kaya Weir. Now she's a target. Andrews, though, just steams past and runs onto that one. They were lining up to get that, Sydney Suns. Regaki's eyes just lit up when he saw the prospect in front of him. Smiles for the Sydney Suns players. They're coasting along at the moment. Now with the score at 7-2.
Score at 7-2, and we're moving into the final 5 minutes of this set. I'm going to call that the Dragons are maybe just going to let this one roll. They're not going to, obviously they're going to want to play as well as they can, but I doubt they'll be exerting extra moments of effort when they can, start afresh in the next set. Wind's picking up a little bit here from right to left. Coming a little bit more stiff, but still fairly gentle.
Yeah, with the set system, the 3 sets and championship points being up for grabs in each of these, it is an opportunity for teams to completely reset after the 20-minute interval, as we just see that pool landing out. Both teams looking quite fresh physically. It's just the first set. Warman, perhaps as you're suggesting, time not so much of an issue here. She's just walking that disc up, not in any rush.
Yeah, it was pulled out the side, very far up the pitch, so she's just walking it up to take as much advantage as she can from that poorly executed pull. So will the excitement of being so close to the end zone put too much into this throw? No, it's perfect. She saw Neil, she chucked it up, and Warman assists a Dragons goal.
That was pretty spectacular, I have to say. Easy from here if you're not the one executing that cross-field, cross-end zone throw with just enough curve and time on that disc to put it past the defender. And Neil, he must have just been loving that. Held his position in space, a couple of steps to this strong side of the field, but then, as we can see, didn't even have to break stride.
3 minutes left in this set.
Neil, hailing from the New Zealand town of Wellington, and Di Warman's a Sydney local, but already those 2 players, they've got a good connection going on field. Reeve to Evans. Della marking Evans straight up in force. The Dragons just trying to perhaps push these players back, but Evans wide open and goes with the long flick to Danny Alexander.
Dunmore underneath.
Dunmore. Yep. And Dunmore did pretty well, but she was always at a disadvantage chasing Alexander. That throw was out in front. She tried to jump quite well, but she had it all to do. And Alexander, she's been on the end of a few of those types of discs in her time and makes no mistake.
Yeah, good matchup, those two. Dunmore and Alexander, similar speed, similar stature. And the disc was just placed well enough by Evans, getting on the other side of a goal for once, for Alexander to have the advantage.
You can see Evans' throwing style in that one, going from low to high. The wind is very, very light at the moment and just able to make the disc sit up, and Alexander to get her hands all over it. So the score has gone out to 8-3. This is a really high scoring set for the Suns in particular. Most of the points have been very quick.
Yeah, it's hard to get up to 10 points in a set in this format, but the Suns have got a sniffing chance at it, although we're coming up to the 20-minute mark. Very close bid from Wee on that disc that Neil eventually got. Warman and Neil showing that connection, doing a little bit of 1-2ing. Now finding Davis. Warman's going up the line, looked off. Davis goes back inside to Spragg with a nice break. Davis is being marked by Dawson.
Over the top of Dawson there, and Neil. Davis says they're very dynamic at the moment, Adelaide. There's a bit of urgency to their play. They're trying to get as many goals as they can to Kelly, and well done, Warman and the Dragons. They're running out of time, and I think that may actually be time right now. So they've snuck in that goal right before the set. That'll lift their spirits and kind of set them up well, hopefully, for the second set.
Yeah, a really good way for the Dragons to end that set. And yeah, look forward to seeing some more Warman-Neil connections. They're going really well to getting that together in this game.
Yep, so both teams will have a little bit of a break, and can the Adelaide Dragons, can they use the momentum of that last point? You see the replay of beautiful hammer from Warman to Kelly, and come out firing in the second set. We'll see you soon. Hey, welcome back to the AUL. The matchup is Sydney Suns versus the Adelaide Dragons. We're coming into the second set after the Suns took out the first 8-4 over Adelaide. Both teams look pretty good, but the Suns in particular were early on scoring a lot of quick points, mainly hucking to Mark Evans in the end zone, and were very ruthless in punishing the Dragons whenever they turned over.
They're going to have to keep their focus because I think the Dragons were starting to find their groove, and the Suns can't afford to be complacent because this is a very well filled out roster for the Dragons. They got the #1 draft pick in Di Werman and also Aaron Neal, and they've been having a great connection, moving the disc around together a lot, scoring goals with each other as well. And the whole roster is looking good. They just made a few poor execution errors, but I feel like if they can get that fixed up, this is going to be a really tight set.
Yep, conditions are perfect for Ultimate at the moment, as Regaki sends a trademark perfect pull, and Davis receives to Warman. Warman with her skills and experience, of course. Oh, as Kelly has launched himself at that, as I was just espousing Warman's skill, but she sent that one a little bit wide to the Davis undercut. And is this going to be the start of punish time? As Regaki, just the vision and the execution there to spot Weir, cross field, straight into the end zone. And that's not what the Dragons needed right now.
No, that was exactly the opposite of what I was hoping for the Dragons, but maybe they can shake that off and answer straight back.
Yep, looks like they're going to go with the same line. And the Dragons perhaps going with offense-defense lines or a certain combination of people. In any case, just as we see the replay here of Regaki to Weir, previous point. For the Dragons coming up in point 2 of set 2, Spragg, Warman, Fung, Davis, Neal and Kelly. The Suns, on the other hand, look to have rotated their line, completely different line from the previous point.
Neal collects the landing pull, out to Spragg. Got standard gender matchups.
Ooh. Yeah, nice, well played there from Evans. Bit of contact there and getting the D. Disc straight back to Fung.
Evans now going back to Mark Kelly. Kelly was brought in to replace the injured Middleton. He's playing really well for the Dragons. Spragg now with a powerful inside flick, and Davis over the top with his flick. Evans getting in there to deny Kelly just outside the end zone.
Yeah, God, Evans is looking particularly sprightly this game. And I think he's pretty much controlling that matchup with Kelly. Kelly is wearing Middleton's shirt, as Hussey mentioned. Kelly replacing the injured Middleton, if that's causing any confusion. But Kelly, a very fast man, but Evans able to read that and overtake him to get the D.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, Evans is a great player, but he seems to have some extra kick in him this game. I wonder if he's consumed a few cans of something caffeinated.
It's Ash Evans here and sent it. Roof looks overhead. It's a long disc. She started to give up on that. Probably a wise decision. That was a little far.
Yeah, that throw maybe suiting a male cutter. So Evans needing to adjust his throw. Like he had 2 female cutters there in Reeve and Alexander, and he could have made that work if he'd have controlled that huck a little bit, slowed it down somewhat. And it's straight back to Evans after a missed throw from the Dragons. Ladamatos back to Evans. He's got a bit of a mess in front of him, so he's happy to wait. Finds Alexander coming out. Across field cut from Perkins. Not good enough for Alexander to look at. And now Evans finds Ash Evans for a goal.
diving effort there from Neil. Well done. He had to do something. He tried to put his body in front and it was really close. But Ash Evans, good enough to stick out the hand and clutch that. And it's 2-0 to the Suns. Again, I think the turnover there happened. Sprague popped one into the air. Mark Evans all over it. And they just aren't making any mistakes near that red zone.
Dragons may be feeling a little bit stifled by some close defense from the Suns. They really are making a mistake in every point.
Opted for the roller pool here. It's rolled out the side. Now I wonder, it's really, it's fascinating to me how much time remaining in the set plays for these teams. The Dragons, there's a good 15 minutes remaining, but the Suns have already gone out to a 2-0 lead. At what point do they start to try and slow down proceedings and preserve that advantage?
Dragons now looking for options through McDonald. And he takes the dump, but it goes behind Robertson. Maybe not so familiar with each other's movements. Rosie Dawson now, marked by Sally Yu. The Dragons are going to have to scramble to get this one back. They really need to get a point on the board at this point. Inside throw from Wentworth to Wee. Lots of fakes before finally unleashing one that's maybe too much. Did Andrews drag his foot in? Yes, he did. Nicely taken down.
Fleet of foot there, Andrews. That was so close to the back corner. He really had to do a bit of fancy footwork.
Yeah, and the Dragons have really they're leaving themselves a mini mountain to climb. As the mistakes just keep piling up. The Dragons have 6 players who didn't play in the AUL last season, and they've only got, well, they've got 4 returners in Sally Yu, Michaela Dunmore, Sean Davis, and Lachlan McDonald. So the rest of the squad are all fresh to this team, so it's not surprising that they're having a few issues with connections, whereas the Suns are a little bit more consistent from last season, though they still do have a lot of new faces. They're all Sydney based or New South Wales based.
As Warman works with Kelly, all the other Dragons players quite deep. Neil, the third handler, they're going for a bit of an isolation with those 3 players. Suns matching up 1-on-1, so they're not getting free with any ease. Sprague coming to offer now.
It was a very nice looking start with that handler isolation.
Davis, as Neil works hard. Warman cleans up in the middle of the field. Punts it long. And here we've got Davis. And excellent body positioning from Davis.
Ladamatos was there, but he couldn't do anything to get around the very well positioned Davis.
Davis so versatile, and showing that versatility. He'd gotten involved with the handlers earlier in the in this point. Streak along to the end zone, and the Dragons have gotten the board here. That's their first point for the set after almost 10 minutes of play. The scoreline being 3-1. They had to work hard for that, but you know they got it done.
Yeah, I liked how they changed it up, throwing in that handler isolation. It gave the cutters a bit more time to prepare their moves, and they kept their nerve. They held their nerve, didn't let any mistakes in, which has been a rare story this game.
And Della. It's a hard one with execution errors, isn't it? Because of course it's the defensive pressure of the opposition that often force a team into those errors. And the Suns here, they're on offense, but they have been putting that pressure on for the whole match. As Rigaki is looking towards the center of the field, people streaming deep, and Wee looking for Dawson. We've got Weir on the other side of the field, but she opts for, is it Mark Wee on the same side? And that's a goal. There were a number of options for Rosie Dawson there. Sydney Suns, were the Dragons doing a kind of zone transition? There were a number of Sydney players free or away from their apparent one-on-one defenders in any case.
Yeah, it looked like a zone. We had Della deep. He was split quite early with a couple of Sydney Suns players, but the Suns worked under mostly and then outnumbered in the end. A 4-1 lead for the hooped Sydney Suns. Amanda Fung getting ready on the line for the Dragons. She spent the last few years around the globe. She's worked for a little time in London and then Singapore. She's back on home turf, though she lives in Sydney these days. Melbourne native. And a very strange miscommunication. Neil tries to throw to Warman, who was not expecting it. And it just goes into her legs and hits the ground. Ash Evans now throwing to Alexander for the goal. Very disappointing for the Dragons.
That's a bit of mini heartbreak there for the Dragons. It looked like they were going again for that handler isolation. It was Neil, Warman and Kelly, I think, at the back. But yeah, a miscommunication or a slight misthrow, and it's just a one-pass goal for the Suns. It's a bit of a gift.
Yeah, a real shame because it worked so well for them the last point, this isolation, and just really didn't pay off for them this time. I wonder if they'll change up their plan. You know, these sorts of things start to get into your head as an offensive unit when you're struggling to score.
To Warman's credit, she didn't dwell on that. What happened, she got straight back on the mark and actually forced Evans to use up quite a lot of the store count in order to find that option. But still, a goal to the Suns. And Evans is backing up here. He's running down quick off this pull. He's marking the tall player, Aaron Neal, as Warman fluffs one up to Kelly. He's gone straight away deep. And Neal trying to work hard, put in the yards. And the disc was ahead of him. Ladamatos with the body positioning here. We see Neal having to really throw himself high into the air to even get a hand on it. And really great that those players actually managed to avoid contact because they were very close together.
Yeah, it was a really interesting defensive move from Ladamatos. He could have beaten Neal to the landing place of the disc, but instead he just read Neal's movement and stuck with him and then attacked at the last second to give him some momentum. It's a really impressive move.
And Evans here, Ladamatos going down the line, not really open, and Evans breaking the mark across to Ash Evans. Sydney here are very calm. They've got their vertical stack. Someone's gone deep, but it's looked off. Perkins, she was the deep cutter. Come back under now. They've made so much ground here in just a couple of throws. And Perkins taking her time. Ladamatos, Reeve. Sydney have got a vertical stack in the end zone. Time's on their side here. Reeve, it's a little bit high, but Evans has got time. And Evans to Alexander. They're just, it's like, I'm trying to find the appropriate simile, but they look so relaxed and clinical and controlled and unpressured on offense at the moment, Sydney Suns.
Like a dream.
Well, I mean, I'm not looking to psychoanalyze, but it does depend on the nature of one's dreams, surely.
This is true. I normally have quite traumatic dreams, so not one of mine, but dreams are boring anyway. This game also looking difficult for Dragons from now. We're looking at a 6-1 deficit for the Dragons. They might only have a shot at the last set in terms of acquiring some championship points. We're moving towards the last 6 minutes of this set. Dragons. Let's see what they've got. Della. Robertson. Just taking their time.
Side stack here for the Dragons. And we had Sarah Lee isolated. Wasn't taken as an option. Oof, as Della does well. Gets his hand on that. Down the line. And here we go, Sally Yu. She's made a strong cut under. Back to Della. This is looking good for the Dragons. Robertson. McDonald.
Dunmore's ready for it. She put her hand up and she got what she asked for, a hammer from McDonald.
That was great work by the Dragons. The side stack, even though the first presented option, I think it was Sarah Lee, was not taken, but moving with purpose through that offense, and McDonald to Dunmore in the end gets the job done.
And you could see during the point a little bit of a risk of the team not knowing each other so well. There was a moment where there was a throw that I think was intended for Dunmore, and she would have had it coming under, but Della was also had his eyes on it and went in for it and got it earlier than her. So, you know, there are moments that it came off of them that time, but they've got to be careful and make sure that they're cutting one at a time, leaving space for each other. It's seen quite a lot in mixed ultimate. If a male player can cover ground a little bit quicker than their female teammate.
Adelaide have gone for the same line here, so they're on defense now as Evans for the Suns. Slight zony look, perhaps maybe melting into match now. Alexander. Sydney have walked through this anyway with great ease and speed. Evans near our near sideline, and almost carbon copy hammer. Same position on field to the same position in the end zone, this time to Rigaki. With the very, very slight breeze, not going to trouble any of these players, but overheads to space in the end zone, and we're seeing some mirror image points at the moment.
Downside up, this Frisbee seems to be the new norm. With this sort of still atmosphere, why not?
Alexander enjoying her Frisbee, enjoying life. The score's 7-2 in this second set, and it's getting to the business, shall we say, end of the set as well. Just over 3 minutes remaining, and this is again the Adelaide Dragons, quite a deficit. They're watching the clock as all players are. Spragg, they're going for the handler ISO again. Neil and Kelly, the third handler here. Working well, the Dragon handlers. They're getting open, but it's if they can make some ground here. Oh, it's Kelly. Pressure from Andrews there. Kelly got his hand on the disc, but popped out. Rigaki to Wentworth. One throw goal.
A goal full of maturity. Wentworth, 44-year-old, still incredible player. Rigaki, 42, showing the kids how it's done. Decisive after a turnover.
Wentworth's instincts are just so perfect for this situation. She was seeing Rigaki run to that disc and moved with purpose to that area of the end zone. Quick goal.
It's 8-2. It's looking very similar to like it might be a result matching the first set, but only really if the Dragons can have an end of set burst of control and energy.
Okay, Evans has sent this pull. It's going to bounce and roll, but Davis stops it. And Warman to Spragg. Warman and to Davis. Funga's gone deep, but not taken as an option. Spragg, and now she puts it. She's gone for Fung, and that's a gorgeous throw. What a perfect put by Sprague.
That was delicious.
Perkins there was pretty close on Mandy Fung, but Sprague good enough to put that disc over Perkins. Perkins did not have a shot at that. And just as we've just got 1 more minute left in this set, just what you were talking about before, Huss, Dragons have just pulled one back here late in the piece.
Yeah, and I think again it would do them well, do their psyche well if they come out now with a strong D, even though there's no chance of getting any championship points out of this set. I'd like to see them, you know, get some confidence back up so that they can maybe get something out of the last set. Always good to finish on a goal. Della's pulling. It's given it a lot of airtime, which will be good for them to get under the disc, get their matchups on. They've gone with a zone, actually. So Della's deep. We've got 2 males up the front. They've gone for the hammer over the top. Gaki to Weir.
We've got Robertson here near the disc and McDonald as well, looking sprightly. They have slowed them down a little bit, but Sydney do not look worried as Regaki pops over the top to Wee.
Time cap's just gone. And Regaki, bad execution on his flick there.
I think time is just gone for the second set. So Regaki obviously felt the ticking clock and was looking for a really quick goal. But Sydney there have romped it through. It's 8-3 in the second set to Sydney over Adelaide. And they took the first set as well. So they've got a minimum of 3 championship points from this this matchup so far. And they're looking strong and confident, aren't they, Huss?
Yeah, they're looking strong and confident and fairly unchallenged defensively by the Dragons at the moment. Coach Anna Regaki for the Dragons and Jonathan Warren White will have to come up with a good plan here to get the Dragons back so that they can claim a single championship point out of this match. We'll take a quick break, see for set 3, Adelaide Dragons versus Sydney Suns.
Welcome back to set 3. Sydney Suns 2-0 currently over the Adelaide Dragons. We're about to get going with set 3 action. Sydney Suns, this lovely sunshine. Everything they're doing is working so far. Set 1 went their way 8-4. Second set 8-3. Very high scoring sets, and let's see what the Dragons have got. They've got to disrupt this flow and pacing of the Suns in order to get into this third set.
Yeah, they need to inject some spectacular defensive moves now.
Sydney starting on offense. It's Evans to Reeve. Already a slightly different look from most of the game with more of a zone look. Evans, though, going through to Regaki, who slices straight away laterally. Della trying to get up, and does enough. The diving Perkins, not enough to get her hands on that disc for a goal.
That was an impressive D. He was being really careful not to get up early and take out Sarah Perkins on the Sydney Suns. And he missed the disc in that bid and then went again, safely getting the D eventually. And we've got romping up the sideline here. Lachlan McDonald looks for Sarah Lee. They've got...
That's Sally Yu in the end zone, but great first point to the Dragons. As you say, fantastic defense by Robertson in the other end zone and clinical, quick offense for the Dragons there. That was wonderful.
That's the first set that Dragons have scored first, so that is a very positive start for them.
I like that zone look. I think playing match and as well as as much pressure as they were trying to exert on the Suns, just wasn't really paying dividends for them. So whatever they can try that's different here, the Dragons, I think they've got to just roll the dice. Sally Yu, happy to get amongst it. Both hands on that disc for the Dragons and that goal.
Della winding up for the pull. And we're getting the disc into play for the Suns. Can they maintain as much composure as they've had for this whole match so far? Rosie Dawson fishing around for something, finds Andrews into Weir. Weir doesn't have that flick to Wentworth or chooses to not take it. Wee nearly falling over with the effort that he's taking to make sure he gets that under catch. Ash Evans getting low to find Dawson.
Ooh, Andrews was looking for a longer throw from Dawson there, but she's chosen to be patient and go back to Evans. Dragons pressure here pretty good. They're forcing them back as Wentworth now takes the option to Dawson. Oh, and it's bounced out of her hands, but she clutched it to her in a second effort.
She's got a lot of players around her now.
Oh, and excellent work there by the Dragons. Is that going to be... Yep, Robertson has held on to it. We saw Wentworth work her way very close to the thrower, and as Della has hoiked that, it's sitting up in the air, unfortunately, though. So Robertson, who kind of pushed his way into the back of Evans, but without any success there.
Yeah, Della throwing to no separation at all. So, in fact, I think the sitting up maybe gave Robertson somewhat of a chance that he wouldn't have had if it had been a longer throw. Interesting choice from Della, losing his head there. Maybe didn't want to get trapped at that end of the field for some reason. Now finding Wentworth, who goes down the same sideline, and Dawson getting taken out a little bit by Sally Yu.
The tireless Dawson, though, she cuts all day, but has fluffed one. Della mopping up. Robertson sprang straight long, and Dunmore lays out, hangs on to it.
Dunmore done well to get that.
2-0 to the Dragons, and this is a different story in set number 3. Robertson, nice throw there, and Della was working hard, exerting his tall presence, and Dawson just sending a disc a little bit high in the air, and Della read that.
And also thank the AUL Lords for deciding to use 3 sets structure in these games, because I don't think the Dragons would have had this much energy late in a long game. But now that they've still got a chance at getting a point out of this, they're looking really good. They've got the energy, they've got the drive to do this.
A game of 3/3, absolutely. And Michaela Dunmore there, the score of that goal, her hometown is Adelaide, so she feels double connection to this team. Outside of Ultimate, she's a fan of a nap, as I'm sure many players and spectators are.
She'll probably need a nap after this game if they manage to take this set.
Neil with a bit to think about, but Neil is marking up on Mark Evans in this point. Mark Evans in the first set scored the first 3 points of the Suns. And he's gone again to the end zone. Ends up being 40 metres free as Neil got caught up with another couple of players and ended up not being close to him at all.
Surprised he didn't call a pick, Neil, there, but maybe he wasn't close enough when Evans got the separation.
Quite a strange, underwhelming end to that point. So just saying, Evans, Neil was marking Evans. And here was it, yeah, Neil got caught behind a couple of players and it was just, he was already maybe a bit too far away. No call. Got one of the taller female players on the Adelaide team in Di Woman standing lining up next to Mandy Fung. One of the shorter, both excellent in the air. Both very versatile players. Warman swings it across to Spragg and Kelly. Warman looking very agile, getting a shoulder in front of Alexander there and getting the disc under.
Fung's been working hard downfield, waiting for an opportunity to pounce deep. Possibly just drifting a bit too deep, but she's come back under now. Davis looks for her, or maybe Kelly. Not a good option. Sydney Suns get it straight back, or get it back, and now it's in Tom Regaki's hands. Mark Evans. Di Warman's hanging deep, trying to look out for any deep early looks. Preventing that from coming at the moment. But now it's gone up and Mandy Fung is nowhere near Sarah Perkins as she catches the goal.
Wow, that's impressive by the Suns. Just before Evans throwing the goal, Regaki and Evans tossing the disc between them and Regaki motioning to his team, saying, come under, offer me something to the side or closer to me. Nothing really forthcoming. But as we see there, Evans just has the skill to pop the disc up above the defender, out of their reach. Mandy Fung in this case, Perkins the beneficiary. So 2-2. Sydney Suns have they allowed the Dragons to get the first couple of points, but have calmly and, well, in some ways casually made up that break, and it's 2 apiece.
It was quite casual. Dragons not looking too stressed. They need to get themselves pumped. They've gone with sort of clumping stack on the home sideline. Perhaps they're going for a handler isolation again. Gone for an early break. Di Warman centers the disc. Robertson. Neil working hard to get open.
Warman puts her hands in the air saying, I'm open, and that's a ground gainer of kinds for Adelaide Dragons. Neil down the line. He's very agile and light in his feet for a big guy. And Warman slices with the outside in. Is it too much? But Robertson, well done. The disc was dying quickly, and I thought it had a chance of being down, actually. Such was the speed at which it was knifing towards the ground, but Robertson did really well. Hung on to that.
Yeah, great grab. Robertson's very comfortable playing anywhere on the field, and at the moment He's doing well to help Adelaide get some goals. When he's not running around on the ultimate field, he gets a bit of rest like his napping teammate Dunmore. He rests by playing car football video games. Rest the legs, makes the mind race. Evans receiving the pull to Reeve.
Regaki pops over the top. And we've got a very, very deep Alexander. She might be off shot at the moment as Adelaide employ a zone.
Nice vision over the top. Well, calmly read by Reeve, who saw a very open Alexander but didn't execute the throw well. Too much outside edge up. It's probably the most common throwing error amongst the teams. Just letting go, not getting your elbow down, not opening your wrist up to the sky enough to release a flat flick. It's only occasional, but it seems to be a popular one.
Oh.
Dunmore ripping a lovely backhand to Sally Yu, who's streaming deep, runs that down. Dragons are back on the board.
No mistake there from Dunmore. Big lefty backhand. That was sweet and flat and hung in the air for Sally Yu. Dunmore's happy. She was on the mark of Reeve when Reeve sliced the curvy forehand, which was a turnover just previously.
Adelaide are in the lead, 4-2. This is the first we've seen them in the lead for the whole match.
There's a bit of a spring in their step, and as we see Della about to take the pull, this Adelaide line of 6 players, they're looking sprightly and keen as they run down on defence.
How much do Sydney Suns want their
Ooh.
championship points? Not
It's gone
enough.
down straight away. So it was just a bit of an error by the Suns, but here we've got a chance for the Dragons. Della picking up and wasted opportunities. You can see he's looking down at his hands as if to say it was just there a second ago.
Went with the backhand whilst he was being forced flick. Now the Dragons have got their zone back on. Della hanging deep. Oh, Ash Evans nearly made the second mistake of the point, but manages to hold on to that disc eventually. Popping it around. They've got 4 players fairly close. They've got a three-person cup, and then Sally Yu in the middle. It's gone over her head. There's only Della left to beat.
And in the end, doesn't even need to go over Della. Rosie Dawson, short little pass popped over to her by Mark Wee. And there's not too much wind here, but the Adelaide zone is slowing down Sydney, and they got a couple of turns there. Oh no, maybe they only got 1 turn. But it definitely has made Sydney think about their offense a little more.
5 minutes to go, and Dragons have still got the lead, 4-3. Can they hold their nerve? Mistakes creeping into the Sydney Suns game, which we haven't seen much of at all. We've got Sprague, Fung, Davis, Warman, Neal, and Kelly ready to go for the Dragons. That's a very floaty pool. The wind's picking up a little bit now. Suns are all underneath now. Davis goes around break to Sprague. Sprague sees Fung deep but doesn't choose her. Goes back to Davis. Kelly coming under hard.
Not making much ground here, the Dragons, but they've still got possession, which is a big thing. Warman, the veteran of so many campaigns, also very active in youth and women's development up in New South Wales. Nice touch there to Spragg. He leans into a backhand. Neil just walks onto it. And oh, Davis just gave up on that one. Not sure if...
I don't think he saw it coming. I think Neil's throw was so casual and within the fluid passage of his running movement that Davis just wasn't expecting it to come out and changed his cutting path. That's a real shame for the Dragons.
Evans to Evans. And Alexander centres through to Evans. The Suns at the moment using the whole of their team really effectively. They're never stuck for an option. Evans goes long. Davis is going to have to, oh, and he had sight on it, but the disc seems to just pop up over his reaching arm. And Andrews just clasped that easily in the end zone.
It was a fast-moving huck. So Davis had to be right on the money if he was going to knock that one down. So they've closed it up to 4-all with under 3 minutes to go on the clock. Dragons need to make sure of this offensive point if they're going to have a chance of getting a championship point. That lack of knowledge of each other showed up in that last point where they had it all the way to the end zone and Neil and Davis just didn't communicate or didn't have the knowledge of each other to finish that off. Another chance now. Robertson and Neil. Warman spreading her arms, saying she's ready, getting away from the much younger Weir.
Kelly on the far sideline. Spragg looking for space. She's made up some ground. She's very deep. The other Adelaide Dragons players are deep here of her. All the cuts are currently towards the thrower as Warman presents. We've got Neil going long, and it's a nicely lofted throw. And yeah, well done, well executed. I was a bit concerned for them. They were being forced back, and the resulting stack was quite a distance, limiting their options, but with that ground gaining option to Warman, she presented a lovely weighted disc to Neil.
Yeah, they didn't
towards the end zone.
They didn't bother adjusting the stack, but thankfully they were able to get that throw out to Warman. The Warman-Neil connection coming back again. We saw it early in the first set. It's good to see it back. It's 5-4 to the Dragons.
It's quite late in the piece in this set suddenly. I've been caught up in point for point, but it's 5-4 to the Dragons, and there's less than 1 minute remaining in this third set, which means the Dragons coming out on defense, if time goes during this point, and it's looking quite likely, they need to win this point in order for the set to be over. If the Suns win, scores are tied, and we'll play one more. Sarah Lee on the mark. Oh, squeezed over to Regaki. They've gone with their zone again, hoping to force an error. Regaki to Evans, who goes, oh, and Andrews reels it in. Regaki. And there we go, it's a turnover. There we go, Regaki was looking for Perkins, but the disc died and hit the ground before Perkins could get her hands under it. So Dragons with a chance here. They're one up in this set as McDonald to Della. To Sarah Lee. Robertson. Della, is it going to stay in? And no.
He had a world of space, but the throw was not accurate enough. That's a real disappointment for the Dragons. Gonna have to work super hard now to clamp down. Evans bringing the disc in. Goes for the hammer over the top of this zone. Alexander centers to Holly Reeve. Tom Regacki now sees Perkins lurking in the end zone, and she eats that one up. It's tied again, 5-all.
5-all, and I'm wondering what's happening with time in this set.
Time's gone.
Time has gone, so it went during that point. And Sydney, having scored that, this is going to be the deciding point in the third set.
Sudden death for the claiming of this set. And Dragons receiving the pull.
Yeah, with this set system, we're not sure about... Teams are wanting these championship points, you know. It's a new system, and they're definitely valuable points. So even though they've been comprehensively beaten in set 1 and 2, they can redeem that valuable 1 point in this third set.
Every set counts. Neal stops the roll. Warman and Spragg. Sydney have gone with a somewhat poachy match D. Amanda Fung now. Open in the middle to Warman. She carefully controls. She was going to sprang that one. Keeps it in. Now finds Kelly. Neal suggesting the hammer. Warman, Kelly working it carefully at the back. There's a lot of excitement in the body language of the Dragons. They're looking eager. Warman finds Davis. Round to Neal. His body's everywhere upfield. Spragg's the only one standing still. And a great grab from Neal, but he's stripped at the ground.
Wow, I thought he
Robertson
had successfully hung on to that. That was a great diving catch. And as we see, it was in his hand right until the moment that his chest banged onto that ground.
That was Kelly, yeah. Really great effort.
Oh. I hope he's all right. He landed quite heavily. All his attention was on just getting his hand to that disc. Great effort there by Kelly, and the Dragons were exhibiting such patience there.
Kelly's going to take an injury sub by the looks, and they're bringing Della on as his replacement. He'll have to be ready to play D. Dragons need to clamp something on. Could be their last chance to get anything out of this whole match. Della with a big straight up to away mark. Wentworth now spreads it nicely wide. Well-placed disc up for Ash Evans, who wants the huck but chooses not to. Goes under to Wee. Wee to Evans up the line. He's been very influential this game. Evans with a quick backhand. Back to Wee, to Evans. Looks off Wentworth. Della thought it was coming, made a bid. Evans and Wee still working it. Wee with his flamboyant balletic turn. Finds Rosie Dawson, and Sydney Suns have taken the third set. They've got the 4 championship points. It's a complete wipeout in the end.
Comprehensive and very dominant performance there by the Suns. it was great to see the Dragons in that third set. They really pulled it together. It was tight all the way, and they were up. They had such a chance to get that critical 1 championship point, but we're denied. We saw in that last series of plays, Kelly laying out very high, just ground stripped at the end, and the dying moments of the game here. Evans, as Huss said, so influential in all 3 sets. To Wee, going underneath the arm of his marker, and Rosie Dawson with the final goal of this match. We hope that you've enjoyed this matchup between the Adelaide Dragons and Sydney Suns in the AUL. We have been Claire Hussey and Joy Lee. See you later.